Good afternoon, everyone. I think we're just giving folks a couple more minutes to join. We had a little bit of a link mix up, so we just want to make sure we're grabbing everyone who might be on the wrong link. I think we're just waiting for a couple minutes here. But please feel free to jump in, anyone else on the team, when we feel like we've gotten to critical mass and should get started.
Patty, do we have anyone else in the waiting room?
Nope, everyone who has joined is in the meeting room now. There's no waiting room.
Great. Commissioner Chen, I think it's 3:10, so we probably are good unless we're missing anyone.
Perfect. It sounds like we are good to go. Will we be recording this meeting?
Yes, it's recording.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Anti-Bullying Advisory Committee meeting. As many of you will know from previous meetings, my name is Shuo Chen. I'm a commissioner with the MHSOAC, and I'm also the chair for this particular committee. We are so pleased to continue this conversation on that Anti-Bullying Advisory Committee here at the Commission. As you know, according to the AB 1134, the California State Legislature allocated $5 million to support the development of a peer social network, a social media network for children and youth, particularly with an emphasis on students in kindergarten and grades 1 to 12 who have experienced bullying or who are at risk of bullying based on race, ethnicity, language, or country of origin, or perceived race, ethnicity, or country of origin. So today, what we're setting time for is really to hear updates on the work from Media Cause, the agency who is developing the anti-bullying social media peer support network, and also our overall social media strategy. So for today's meeting, we will start with roll call for our committee members, and following that, we will open it up to general comment. I do know that Toby has an announcement he would like to make as well. So Toby, did you want to go ahead first with the announcement and then we go into roll call?
We should probably do roll call first.
Sounds good. And hopefully everyone can hear me okay. I do apologize in advance. I've been having some internet connectivity issues, so it's a little bit staticky when I hear you. So if for any reason I'm starting to cut out, please do let me know. Or I will also turn off video to make sure I can hear everyone clearly. So without further ado, let me pass it over to Cody to help us take roll.
Okay, good afternoon. Let's see here. Commissioner Chen.
Present.
Present. Stacy Alamo. David Ball. Emily Chan. Matthew Deep. Jinky Dollar. Jessica Duong, Ashia Hewage, Candy Lee, Miko Mastrilli, Mimi Meyer Rosales, Sasha Nera, Nathan Yo, Carrie Pasanti, Sydney Pon, Jasmine Brooke Puente, Maya Smith, Sophie Sue, Michael Trimble, Laura Walker, Michelle Wright. So as there are no committee meetings members here, I am assuming that they got a different link than what is on the website. So I am going to send out a listserv, I think. So we'll go to our whole listserv and with the updated link, and hopefully they will see that and join as soon as possible.
Hi, my name is Deborah Rock, and I thought I would be getting a call about my Thanksgiving order because I still need to pay for it, but I haven't gotten a call.
Was it a pre-made meal?
Yes.
Deb, just a heads up that you're not yet muted.
Glad we didn't get her credit card number over the Zoom, or her credit card bill would be quite high. Well,
Especially on a recorded line.
that's right. So since we have a moment here, I'll share this announcement and then maybe an opportunity to share it again. So earlier today, the commission voted to support $2,010,000 in grants to support young people in doing advocacy around school mental health themes. So we're really excited about that, and we are working to figure out how to best release those dollars in ways that will be accessible to young people who are doing advocacy or interested in doing advocacy in their communities around the mental health needs of youth. But we're excited to be able to offer additional funding. We're not exactly sure how best to do that, but we're really looking forward to identifying some community organizations that we can partner with to make sure that the voice of youth is at the table, present and loud when it comes to conversations that are happening around meeting the behavioral health needs of youth. So just, given who's in the room and the topics that are on the table today, we wanted to share that consistent with not just anti-bullying work, but really recognizing many of the drivers around youth behavioral health needs and the strategies, particularly peer-to-peer strategies for young people to engage. So happy to answer any questions if there's time, but just wanted to share that since we're here. And Deb is reminding me that I haven't done my Thanksgiving planning either. I'm not even sure what we're having for dinner tonight.
Hey, hey, hey.
All right, thanks for your patience while I did that. I just sent out a listserv, so hopefully we will have some more people popping in here. Apologies for that.
Go ahead.
If you've joined in the last minute or so, you just announce yourself as you join so we know that people have got that link.
If you're just joining us, we apologize for the wait. We are trying to get the committee members into the room. There was a snafu with the link. And so this is the right link for the anti-bullying committee. And we are going to hear a presentation from MediaCause today and another announcement from our executive director here really shortly. We appreciate everyone's patience and sorry for the disruption. Thanks.
Commissioner Chen, Andrea, I wonder if we want to get started since it's almost 3:30. I just want to make sure we have enough time for the presentation and for question. And since the meeting is recorded, we could also send the recording to the committee members and field question or additional question via emails if that's helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Melvin. I was just discussing with Toby if it makes sense for us to move forward first, given the recording piece. And our main goal here is to really have MediaCause help facilitate discussion with everyone who is here. So given that it is a recorded line, perhaps we'll go ahead and get started and the rest of the committee members can catch up afterwards. I actually see a hand raised from Stacy. And actually, this is where I want to check with our team here. Cody, can we take that now or because we're officially done taking roll?
Yeah, we can move on. As my understanding is we just wouldn't be able to vote on anything, but since the presentation today is informational, I believe we can move forward.
Perfect. Let's go ahead and do that. Stacy, over to you.
Thank you so much. I realize it's not public comment, but I am not a member of this committee, but I really feel that since there are so few, maybe only one or two at the most, and I know it's nobody's fault. These things are accidental. But I do feel that the committee, at least the majority of the committee members, should be present so they can have an interactive experience. I realize Media Cause probably went to a lot of trouble to, you know, and it's their time, but there's something not right when the committee isn't here to see the presentation. And I don't know if there is some kind of a deadline. I know it's the holidays, but still, if we, called, and I'm willing, I have an assistant that's going to be at this meeting because I have to leave, but she's willing to help you, and she'd be willing to email all of the committee members for a new date if you set it, because I just feel like it's more respectful for them to be there. It's just my 2 cents because I have to go. But thank you so much. And I'm sorry that this happened because it looks like a good presentation.
Absolutely. Really appreciate that, Stacy. Based on the public agenda that we have published online, I know a lot of the members of the Media Cause team are here today, and their goal was to present their latest insights and market research and to seek feedback. So I'll defer to the team if you'd prefer that we move ahead for today so that you can collect feedback from the group that is here first, and then we can schedule separate and additional follow-up meetings with other committee members, or if you'd prefer to defer to a different date. My impression from the agenda that has been put together is that any feedback at this particular point would help further guide your research and help unblock some of the work that you are doing. So you've already, and I'm also under the impression you've already met one-on-one with a number of the committee members, including myself. So it may be useful even without other committee members to move ahead for today, but please feel free to jump in and let us know what you prefer to do.
Yeah, no, I think we could probably move forward. I hear Stacy and her concern. I think we'd be committed to, again, since this is recorded, if the recording can be sent to the committee member, that way they can still have a bit of interactive even through the recording. And then if we want to schedule either a separate meeting for question, or if there's question via email, we'd be happy to do that.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Melvin. It sounds like, and Stacy, thank you for voicing that. Hopefully your assistant will be able to stay and help participate in this meeting as well. It sounds like Media Cause's preference and the team here's preference is to move forward. We can always schedule additional one-on-one meetings with all the committee members as needed. So I will pass it back to Cody to move into general public comment. And then after that, I will do a quick introduction of the Media Cause team and we'll get straight to the presentation.
All right, thank you. Do we have any general public comment before we get started with the presentation? Please raise your hand now. I can go through the process here. If you'd like to make a comment on an agenda item, please wait until that agenda item starts. You may request to make public comment by clicking the raise hand icon on your computer or the app, or if calling in by phone, push *9. You'll be placed in a queue to comment on that item. When it's your turn to comment, the moderator will unmute your line and announce your name or the last 3 digits of your phone number. And when you're unmuted, we will be able to hear you, and we'll take the comments in the order they are received. Once a public comment period for an agenda item starts, we'll close that queue to the public. And please be prepared to complete your comments within 3 minutes or less due to time constraints. And we'll let you know when your time is up. Obviously, this is so much easier in person, and we don't want to cut anyone off, but we do have the time limitation today, and thank you for your understanding. So with that said, do we have any public commenters? I don't see any hands right now. Just want to make sure we're not missing anybody, but I am not seeing anyone, so I think we can move forward with the presentation.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Cody, and everyone really for your patience. Apologies for the logistical and technical issues here. So I am really excited to introduce this presentation by Media Cause, the general contractor who we've selected to be developing the anti-bullying campaign strategy and peer support network. Media Cause and the whole team would like to present insights from its audience and market research with all of us here and share how it really informs the campaign strategy going forward. After the Media Cause team presents, we would love to hear feedback from everyone that is here, any committee members that are here, as well as the general public about what the team has learned so far and any thoughts that you might have. So without further ado, I would love to introduce Melvin, Clara, Teresa, Erica, Tori, and Stephanie from the Media Cause team. And I apologies, Tori, Bianca, and Stephanie from the Media Cause team. Thank you all so much for all the work that you've led and for being here today. Please feel free to kick off on your presentation. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Commissioner Chen. I'm just going to go into presentation mode and we will get started. Hi, everyone. My name is Melvin Crescenti. I'm leading this project for Media Cause. You'll hear from a lot of us today. Before we go into kind of the table of content, I just wanted to reshare this overview slide that we had shared at the last public meeting in August. When we were in August, we were just done with the first bullet, the stakeholder interviews, and we were finishing the focus group. Since that last public meeting, we finished all of the research, and we are now where you see the little orange dots, which is the strategy, developing the brand of the campaign, and then going into strategy for social media. And then after that, once we're done with that, we will go into really the production part of everything and getting ready to launch. But as the commissioner was mentioning, we will start with insights and really key insights from our research, because these are really the foundation for what we'll share today, which is the campaign strategy, the entire concept, and how that concept kind of will turn into the campaign. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to Teresa, who will go through the insights.
Great, thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm going to go over our high-level learnings from the research that Melvin just mentioned. And just to recap, we spoke with 9, so we had 9 focus groups, 3 with youth, 3 with parents, and 3 with educators, and a handful of individual one-on-one conversations to arrive at these insights. And while there's a full report that we're happy to share, we wanted to take you through the top line learnings, as Melvin mentioned. So the first big takeaway that we concluded was that after talking to so many people and hearing so many people's stories, we realized that bullying has really become normalized behavior. It was, we heard from many people that they couldn't really separate the bullying from acceptable behavior. A lot of people, young people said, I actually wasn't even sure that it was bullying at the time and therefore didn't say anything. For API youth, the racial bullying usually starts really young and was very common. Again, stories that we heard was how it felt so normal and minimal that it wasn't worth saying anything, whether it was a microaggression or small comments that lead to feelings of shame and questioning their identity and feeling like they don't belong. The second big insight we heard is that social media is playing a big role in driving this normalization, whether it's an offhand comment, and this really takes kind of 2 shapes. One is sort of hiding behind the social media, and since all young people are really using it, making offhand comments or racial stereotypical jokes or things that you might not say in person that people feel like they are more free to say online. The second is just seeing this content. We heard stories of maybe a TikTok goes viral, people are sharing it, and by the next day at school, people are talking about it. And the content may be something that's a little bit inappropriate. It may be political. It may be something that 12-year-olds don't fully grasp the context of, but it's normalized in terms of being okay to talk about it and being able to replicate that kind of humor. The third insight is that young people often feel like they're told when these things happen, it's all on them to speak up, to defend themselves, to do something, to talk to a teacher, to talk to the offender. And they feel like that onus and that responsibility is a heavy weight. And oftentimes they actually don't do it because they feel like it's not going to make a difference. And this kind of goes hand in hand back to the normalization of it's so pervasive. It's just these small comments. If I say something about it, nothing's going to change. And no one's really going to, you know, punish anybody, or ultimately it's not going to change anything. So they don't do anything. The other thing is that snitch culture is a very powerful deterrent at this age. And that's another reason why people don't talk about it. The fourth is that when we talk to educators, they really acknowledge that it's a big problem and that not enough is being done about it. But they also feel like they themselves can't be the ones to solve this. They already have enough on their plates in terms of a curriculum and many classes and many students and grading and test scores. So they actually feel like they need more support from parents and from counselors and outside resources. They also express that they don't have the expertise or the training to counsel and support their students' mental health on top of curriculum needs. And finally, a big insight we heard was that anti-bullying campaigns and policies are in place, but they're futile in that youth, parents, and educators all talk about, yes, there's the posters, or yes, there's an agreement I signed at the beginning of the school year, or there's assemblies or rallies, but ultimately it doesn't lead to any change. It's just another rally. It's just another campaign. Educators also talked about the constant introduction of these campaigns from the district, and really expressed frustration that some of them are quality campaigns or programs, but they're not implemented for long enough to have any real impact. And the next year, a new one's coming in and everybody has to get on board with that. So those are sort of the key insights that drove, that led to the campaign strategy that Claire is going to take you through.
Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here with you. Yeah, we're really excited to show how those insights, those interviews, that research led us to our approach and our high-level campaign strategy. So I'll be talking a little bit about the high-level pieces and then also diving into breaking it out into phases so we can start to picture this in time. Before I do that, I wanted to begin by defining the word campaign. As with so many things, campaign can bring to mind a lot of different things for different folks, depending on your background and what field you're in. But for our purposes, just at the top, when we use the word campaign, we're using it to describe a strategic, time-bound, concerted effort to achieve a number of goals and objectives through certain tactics. So that's what we mean when we say the word campaign, and you'll hear us use that word a lot. So diving in, wanted to begin with our overall summary of this that you'll see outlined in the rest of these slides, but our campaign will engage tweens, who are the population the most affected by bullying, in elevating the issue of race-based bullying and also in becoming anti-bullying advocates and activists within their own schools and networks. And one really key component of this strategy is that just as they are closest to the reality of bullying, tweens also have the greatest capacity to take ownership of effective solutions and intervene, and also start to address the societal norms that exist between themselves and their peers, as well as their communities. So how we envision doing this is creating authentic, relatable, youth-led content about race-based bullying in conversations and spaces where tweens are already highly active. In essence, that means we want to meet them where they are. We also want to build a safe space for youth to share their own experiences. We know that that's an important part of helping people not feel alone and building solidarity, right? We want to spark those vulnerable conversations and do it in a way that does that without endangering or making anyone feel uncomfortable. We'll also seek to contend with the shame and stigma around bullying by developing supportive resources, and also our partnerships that we're developing will play a huge part in providing trusted resources and also guidance for those who have experienced bullying, but also for the full spectrum of people who are involved in this issue. Secondary outcome, will be to connect with parents, educators, and teens, as opposed to tweens, in order to foster a shared understanding of bullying. Like you heard Teresa say, we know that right now there isn't always a good, the lexicon is lacking in terms of people aren't always aware of how to describe what they've experienced, whether it is bullying or not. And we know that part of achieving our primary objective around race-based bullying and supporting those who have experienced that is going to be connecting with those parents, educators, and teens, the other people who are part of this fabric. So going into our goals, we have 4 goals listed out here. The first is to elevate the experiences of race-based bullying. While you'll hear us talk about bullying a lot, we know that that is the primary focus for this campaign. We'll elevate the experiences of people who have been bullied because of their perceived race or ethnicity, and create urgency and connection through powerful storytelling. The second goal we have is to reframe the narrative. We'll take the opening steps to begin to shift the existing narrative. We know that we won't be able to just achieve this in a short time, obviously, but we'll take the opening steps needed to denormalize bullying, and especially race-based bullying, by equipping youth with the tools they need to reframe, identify, and respond to bullying in their lives and their communities. Third, we'll foster a shared sense of responsibility. I think this, again, you can see that direct relation to the insight that Teresa shared around this isn't just something for those who experience bullying to solve. This is something that we as a community need to address. And it's really more of a systemic normality that we all are part of accepting, right? We need to, all of us, if we're going to actually make a difference, all of us need to recognize that we have a role to play. And then finally, we want to create a safe space for youth. Again, this is around creating that common lexicon. What is race-based bullying? How can we build solidarity by hearing other people's stories and reminding people they're not alone in their experience, and shine a light on the collective need and urgency really to develop a space and really start changing the conversation. Our objectives, we have 5 of them listed here. We want to create breakthrough communications. Again, this is about cutting through the noise and speaking directly to our BIPOC tween audience, and to become a really actually meaningful part of their lives in a way that other campaigns have not. I think that speaks right to what Teresa was saying in terms of, yeah, we don't want to just put up posters and call it a day. We want this to be something that matters and that means something to the people who are part of this. We also want to provide resources for ongoing support. We know partnerships are, again, important here, but looking to experts from everything of mental health to cultural experts to others who may be involved in terms of the culture, and really create a space where people can really get those links that they need. We also want to offer multiple points of connection, which is just a fancy way of saying, we know that in order to be effective and reach our audiences, we really need to spread our message and our campaign wide, right? We need to be in multiple places, both in person and digitally. We want to establish strong partnerships. You've heard me say again and again how we know that partnerships will be integral to breaking through and delivering our message. We also already have some of those important partnerships in place, and we'll be looking forward to rolling out the full partnership strategy going forward. And finally, we want to build momentum toward further impact. And again, this is about not being the campaign that goes into schools and posts up a poster and calls it a day. This is about actually beginning to make a difference for kids who are experiencing race-based bullying, for communities who have a lot of this going on, and for people who are ready to join us in saying that we need to actually begin to change the narrative around how we treat one another. So just a quick glimpse of the high-level phases. You'll see we have 4 listed for this initial stretch of the campaign. And then we also have a glimpse of June 2023 and beyond. So phase one, we're anticipating a soft launch, and that will go from about December to February. We're trying to find the time, and that will enable us to begin producing things, which we know we need to do, but also begin building those audiences, creating those partnerships, reach the public, and start establishing the campaign as a thing. By phase two, we'll then be ready to launch the campaign in a bigger and splashier way, and really start to gain traction through compelling storytelling, providing opportunities for action, and begin promoting our day or week of action, which we'd like to be in May. We really want to start building that momentum, getting folks on board, planning what those day or week actions will look like. And then phase four, we really want to, well, I didn't mean to breeze by the day of action. That's going to be the kind of the big spark. I think we have already had a lot of ideas that you'll see outlined, but for a big day or week of action where participants in the campaign, our partners, can launch the campaign and bring it to life within their communities and their school campuses. And then finally, phase four, celebrating and building forward. So what happens next? Again, we don't want to just drop the mic and say goodbye. We want to continue to build on the momentum we've gained and activate those larger scale partnerships that will allow us to really take this thing to scale. And I will turn it over to Teresa again to share who this campaign will try to engage.
Thank you, Clara. So back to me, building from those insights and all the strategy that Clara talked about, just wanted to go back to a little bit more detail on these tween targets. So what is the persona? For us, for this project, it's really just a summary of the learnings of all the research kind of contained into a bite-sized profile of who this target audience is. These are just easier to pass on as we brief different teams and as we go into creative and strategy to have a reminder of how we can engage these audiences. So and this is the profile, this is the research that we did. So I mentioned earlier the insights and doing all the focus groups. This just gives you a little bit of background into how many people we talked to, the length of time we talked to. And also there's notation on the bottom there for representation from the AAPI community. So for youth specifically, we talked to 12 youth and 9 were from AAPI background. So making sure that we had that representation present. So all of this research led us to 6 key profiles. I'm only going to talk about one today, but I'll give you high level, of what these 6 are. The 3 on the left really being our target tweens, and between them, the distinction that we made, the first being sort of savvy tweens, and that we broke that out further, but just at the high level, savvy tweens are the tweens that we talked to who said, yeah, bullying is happening. It's happening all the time. I see it happening. I don't like it, but I don't feel like much can be done to change it. And then for race-based, it's those tweens, but who also have experienced race-based bullying. So giving examples of microaggressions or bullying anywhere from, an offhand comment to, being assumed that they have COVID because they're Asian. On the right side, the unaware tweens is the distinction that we made for some tweens who were more apt to say, I wasn't sure what was happening. I thought these people were my friends and they were just making these comments. I didn't like it, but I wasn't sure it was bullying at the time. And sort of making that distinction for us will be important as we think of different communication strategies and ways to engage people who experience bullying in different ways and process it in different ways. We also spoke with teens, so youth that were in high school. And what we learned is that largely while teens are still experiencing bullying, it takes on a little bit of a different flavor. By this age, they tend to have gained more awareness of social cues, so they're usually more aware that it's happening. They've also developed better friendships and are less sort of influenced by cliquey behavior or just behavior of exclusion, and have sort of just grown into more confidence. And so while it does happen, it tends to be on a lesser scale. For educators and parents, like I mentioned earlier, educators are really just under immense pressure to do it all, and are really strapped for time and resources. So one big takeaway that we have when we engage them through this will be keep it short, keep it, not a lot of prep time if it's something that they need to engage classrooms with, and something that is easy to, quickly understand and implement. For parents, one thing that we learned is that they're really the biggest advocate for their kids when they learn about bullying. And they often feel like they want to do more to stop it, but they're not in the schools. And so they feel powerless, and they really rely on educators and teachers. And often this leads to frustration when they see that the schools aren't taking enough action. But from a, from a interaction perspective with their children, parents did communicate that they would appreciate more tools to help them talk to their kids about this. Conversation starters, what are the right things to say? What are the things to avoid saying? Are all sort of tools and resources that we're keeping in mind for this segment as we continue in the project. In terms of the race-based teens, this is really going to be the primary profile that we work with in development of the strategy and the campaign. And just to tell you a little bit deeper about these tweens, we heard a range of stories from, young people feeling, from a young age being teased for something like their accent, or even, it could be as small as a comment on skin tone or hair, all the way to sort of really hateful, derogatory comments. Obviously, in today's time, or with COVID, we did hear stories of assuming that they have COVID just when they have a cold, or just very blatant, outward, hateful comments. Some of their pain points, one thing that's really important to remember is, a lot of these young people told us that they didn't feel like they had good parental support. And this was largely driven from cultural barriers, where they felt like they couldn't necessarily talk to their parents about what was happening because their parents either didn't fully understand, or there was a language barrier, or they just weren't, they themselves were dealing with similar issues and weren't emotionally equipped to be that support system for them. So that was an area that we heard young people wish that they had more guidance in. We also heard across all tweens, really, that there's a general skepticism towards social media and online internet safety and security. So something that we are certainly keeping in mind as we think about ways to engage them in peer-to-peer connections, making sure that they feel safe, making sure there's anonymity. There's also a distrust towards influencers, and some felt like influencers were really driven by greed, or driven by motivated by fame. And so we heard tweens express that any influencers that we engage really need to be people that they feel they can relate to, and they feel are trustworthy and credible in this space. So that's just a little bit of background on this audience member, and then I'll pass it back to Melvin.
Before actually you pass it back to Erica to share the concept, I just wanted to precise one thing. You hear us talk about tweens a lot, and I don't know that we actually define that age group. So I just wanted to make sure we do that for everyone. So tweens is really you're too old to be, I would say, a young kid. So let's say 5-6-year-old, but you're also younger than what a teen would be. So you're really in that sweet spot of between 8 to 12-year-old. So this is what we mean by tween. Just wanted to make sure we were clear on that. But I will pass it off to Erica to talk about some of those insight takeaways and then get into the concept.
Awesome, thank you. Hi, everybody. So as a lot of what Teresa and Clara had mentioned already, Our major insight takeaways have been, first and foremost, that a lot of campaigns are putting the focus on those who have been bullied and then putting weight on them to fix the situation by speaking up. But we've seen time and time again that this doesn't shake the stigma and it doesn't create change. So we feel strongly that to make a change, we need to put the responsibility on everyone, including those who have perpetuated the bullying behavior in the first place. We also saw that there's a lot of confusion as to what bullying even is. So part of our work is really to define what that is and kind of create a shared understanding in order to even address the stigma. And then another part is that silence is a major component of the story. And although bullying is more pervasive now than ever, people are not coming up and speaking about it. And then lastly, we know that we need to expose the truth and acknowledge that although bullying behavior has been seen as accepted, it is in fact painful and unacceptable. And all of these major takeaways and insights led us into developing our concept. So our concept is to define race-based bullying and reframe it as a story in which every one of us plays a role. And in doing so, we'll disrupt what we as society have come to accept as normalized behavior and demonstrate how widely experienced and both damaging it is to each of our communities. In order to do this, we're going to give people an anchor in relating their experiences, and also as a way of demonstrating the various roles in the bullying narrative, we're going to create archetypes, which are going to be portrayed as characters representing everyone in the story. So everyone from people who have bullied to peers, bystanders, allies, those who have bullied, those who have been bullied, activists, friends, parents, and educators. The archetypes will serve as a framework for continuing to define what race-based bullying is, taking into account diverse perspectives while also emphasizing points of relatable shared experiences. So this will help us to help youth to see themselves and their peers within this larger story. It'll help us to expose biases, and it will help us to ultimately show how bullying behavior is problematic and painful for everyone involved. And our goal here is really to call on everyone to be accountable for whatever role they play, and just kind of acknowledge that everyone does have a role to play and everyone has something that they can do to take action to create positive change. Another huge component of our concept is to collect a wide variety of real and resonant stories. And we're going to call on real people to reflect and share on their experiences in a safe and anonymous way. And this will provide us with an opportunity to define what bullying behavior is in a very real and raw way, defining it based on those who have experienced it and depending on, despite whatever role they feel that they play in the narrative. And in doing this, we're going to turn the shame spotlight off and instead build solidarity around all of these widely shared experiences and inspire hope and urgency to begin shifting the narrative.
Great. So now that we've walked through our concept, it's time to see how it comes to life, which brings us to activations. And yes. So again, just enhancing our shared vocabulary, we define an activation as a point of connection, engagement, and action with the campaign. It's how the campaign comes to life and how people are able to participate. So there are three kind of core components that I want to outline for you at this time that each of our activations will have an aspect of in some way. The first is interaction. We don't want to just be broadcasting, right? We want to spark community engagement and discussion. Storytelling, again, our concept and our strategy is founded on storytelling and human connection. And then finally, community, right? Another key leg of that stool, if you will, is that we need to do this together. We need to do this as a community, and we need to break that silence that Erica talked about, right? We can't let people suffer in silence because they're afraid to speak out. We want to create the space for people to come forward, share their stories, and realize that this is on all of us to solve together. So get ready. These are just a few examples of how we envision the campaign concept coming to life. So the first is a really fun one, quiz. If BuzzFeed has taught us anything, it's that all of us enjoy asking the internet who we are. And we wanted to create a simple on-ramp, right? Like something that is really easy to lead people into engagement with the campaign. So you want those sort of really low step, low barrier actions. And that's what this quiz will do. It'll be a quiz where they can go online and answer a couple of questions and then share what type of mix of the characters and archetypes that Erica described, what type of mix they are. So that'll be a fun way to kind of begin building that momentum, start people off with something that is easy to do, is fun and is engaging, but also reflective. And then the second piece is tell your story by telling us. And so we've talked a lot about the need to get real people's stories and give them space to share. But the only way we can really do that is if they feel safe enough. And so we decided a great way to do that would be to provide the anonymity by creating a form or some kind of space where they can share their stories with us, and we will use our social media platforms and digital channels to publish those in creative ways and sharing anonymity, but also showing prevalence, right? So that'll be a big part of it as well. Deep and emotional storytelling, again, I think, I know there's a tendency in these kind of discussions we're all thinking high level strategy and execution, but really we know at the core of this type of issue, and really all issues, are those deep human connections. And storytelling is one of the best ways in that we can talk about, where we can actually confront some of the really hard and difficult issues socially among us. And that allows us to kind of step into someone else's shoes. We can start to understand, this is how I felt. And also we might be able to understand better how our actions also affect one another's. And then finally, the fourth big activation that we wanted to talk about was that day or week of action that I mentioned. So we know for this kind of thing to be successful, we really need to build momentum. We need to have some kind of like movement toward something, right? We don't want to just cast it open and be like, we're here forever, hang out with us. No, we want to build something. We want people to have something to gather around and then focus on for that first stretch of the campaign. So we'll be planning a day or a week of action in the spring. And this will be a time when we could feature all different kinds of events, both online, offline. We've talked about ideas to bring the campaign to life in the communities. So we could give youth different ways to bring this to life at their schools in a really creative way, right? But we really want to shine that spotlight onto those who have experienced race-based bullying, raise this as an issue, and use that as a focus time to really elevate the messages of the campaign. And then following that, we want to make sure we continue that momentum, like I said earlier, in terms of like, now that we've all come together about this, we've gotten everybody excited, we have activated partnerships, we want to make sure we're like we give them somewhere to go. So that's also something that we'll talk about. So now that we've talked about activations, we also know there's a bunch of content channels and platform strategies that go into actually getting the word out there and making this real. So just want to open this section. You're going to hear about a lot of our different touch points, but how important having multiple touch points is. So, you think about like all the digital platforms you're on, and we know that our lives are no longer siloed between offline and online, right? Like that experience is sort of stretched out, and we exist in both throughout the day, right? And so we know that to actually make an impact and have people connect with the campaign, we need to build those strong relationships by showing up in all the places they are. So that's what you'll see expressed in the coming slides. And throughout, across every channel, across every platform, we have a couple of core key campaign messages that you can probably guess, given that you've heard what we've talked about already. But the first is that your experience and your story is valid. You're not alone. The second is that there are real ways that we really can address the large issue of race-based bullying. We want to really deconstruct it and make it something that people can see, oh, this actually could change and actually needs to. And then finally, changing the narrative will take all of us. Again, it's not just on the people who've experienced bullying. It's not just on tweens. It's on all of us to make and we all have the ability and responsibility to take action together. So the first platform strategy I want to walk you through is the central hub of the campaign, which is the website. So website, obviously important just in terms of building credibility, but it will also serve as sort of our home base where we can connect all of the stories and the resources and community and give us a place to really, it'll be a living and thriving hub. So there will be there will be a lot of different tools and iterations, but there are 3 sections that we know we will need. The first is the story hub. So again, like I talked about, that anonymous portal for collecting those stories from youth who are willing to share with us, and then also posting those, right? In beautiful, creative, anonymous, and honoring ways. Second big piece of the website will be resources. And that's, again, we know that has a lot to do with partnerships. We'll provide resources for tweens, like we, for both mental health or for people who are experiencing race-based bullying or want to learn more. All kinds of resources, and we know will depend heavily on expertise of others, and also give places for parents and educators to access tools as well. The third big component of the website will be community. So this will be this is the heart of the site, right? This is allowing tweens to see they're not alone, and also learn more about the breadth and depth of the issue. We'll also create opportunities for tweens to directly interface with one another about their stories and bullying at large. So all in the safe space that will help us build the solidarity we know we need to move forward. And now I'll turn it to, I believe, Melvin to talk about some social media.
That's right. Thank you, Clara. Yes, social media. So this is going to be a big part of the campaign. So we have, with our key target audience in mind, we recommend focusing on 5 channels to start, which are TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, and Snapchat. And so why did we land on these 5 channels? So we're going to talk about this right now. So TikTok, you all know, I'm sure, TikTok by now. It's great for short bite-sized content. Often the content that we can find on here is used for storytelling and education. Obviously, there's some great, funny, cat videos and things like that. That I don't know if we'll use cat videos in the campaign, but I think, humor and levity could have a place there. What is very good for this campaign is that TikTok has over 1 billion active monthly user, and the 10 to 19-year-olds make the largest age group on that platform. YouTube, this is a little bit different. This is more a hub for long form content and live stream content. Same, everybody knows YouTube. It's used by over 2 billion people worldwide, and then it is used by 15 to 35-year-olds. So it could be used by teens. It is used by tweens as well, and it could also be used for us, for parents and educators. Twitch, same, skews a little bit younger than YouTube. This is a platform that is great for gaming and live stream. So this is not necessarily a channels where we will have our own channel, but this is something that we can use for partnership with brand, with gamers, with people that our target audience is following. And then Instagram and Snapchat. So Instagram has skewed a little bit older over the last few years. So it would be a great channel to target parents and educators. There is still, young people that go on Instagram, and same, this is more short content, less than 1 minute. And then Snapchat, which is a little bit different, but great to be creative, use filters and other features to really potentially bring the archetypes that Erica was talking about to life. We have a few deeper dive on each channels. I'm going to fly through those just because I want to make sure that we have enough time at the end of the presentation for a question. But TikTok, there are two things that we can do. One is monitor and engage with accounts using hashtags and trends that are related to our topic of bullying. There's a few mentioned here. But more importantly, TikTok is great for user-generated content. And this is something that we want to be able to leverage. As we talked about storytelling, we want to be able to give that platform so people can share their stories on our website, but they also can do it on a platform like TikTok. And they could do so either publicly or either anonymously. There's a lot of different ways to do that on that platform. YouTube, as I was saying, it's more long form content. So we could think about developing some content series about bullying. We could use some of the story submission we would get. We could partner with, with organization, brands, and influencer to do that. And also a great feature for both YouTube and Twitch that we will just talk about in a second is that you can do live stream. And so having that discussion and that engagement aspect is really important for this campaign. Twitch, this is more for, again, for gaming. There's a lot of opportunities there to partner with specific gamers, and there is a lot of engagement while they're streaming themselves playing a video game. There is a lot of possibility to engage with our target audience. So this is what we'll try to do here, and this is something that could be great for our week or day of action. The charity stream on YouTube, this is something that would work hand in hand with Twitch. A lot of gamers are using Twitch and YouTube to stream themselves, and you can turn that into charity stream to be able to, again, engage with your audience, potentially fundraise, and do other things. Lastly, Instagram, there's a lot we can do there. Audio message is something that we can also do to make sure that people feel comfortable if they don't want to share their story and put their face on it. We could use audio as a medium to do so. And then similarly to Snapchat, there's a lot of filter that we could use to to really be creative with the way we are getting input, we are getting stories from our audience. And it's the same on Snapchat, so I'm not gonna go too deep into Snapchat. But I'm gonna pass it off to Tori to talk about paid media and advertising.
Great. Thanks, Melvin. We've got a few different objectives on the paid media side, the first of which would be growing followers. And what we mean by there really goes hand in hand with what Melvin was describing on organic social. So in order to drive that growth on the organic social platforms, really putting some advertisements behind that to be able to build that audience there on the platforms that we're trying to, grow that following. And to do so, there's a number of different ad placements that we can put out there. One of which would be larger ad units that grab attention and take over the full screen. You can see some examples to the right too. Also non-skippable video ads. I'm sure we've all seen something where we can click, that X out. This would allow you to, go the whole way through so that you're seeing that ad before someone served the content that they were originally trying to see. And then I'm sure we've also seen situations where we're looking at something on our computer or looking at something on our phone where it doesn't quite match the screen that it was intended for. There are, very specific ads that are able to adjust their size and appearance based on all those different environments. So having that really flexible ability to render in whatever device you're looking at is important to us as well, because we know that youth will definitely be on their phones. Another priority here would be building awareness. So after we've grown that organic social following, we want to really get the word out about the campaign, about our mission, and send users directly to a microsite. And so this will really be where we're trying to make hay out of the day and week of action once we get closer to that time frame. And again, there's a multitude of different options we're exploring in order to do so. One way of which would be out of home. I'm sure you've all seen bus shelters, or if you're going to the metro, all those different like public transit areas are out of home. And we would be interested in exploring those to try to get some local folks because it is a different way of capturing people. Similarly, there are digital display ads that are clickable from web and mobile apps that we'd be interested in exploring. Again, using all forms of multimedia, so video and audio, which we've spoken about before. And then similarly, we want to meet people where we're at. We know that there are youth that are gaming, so going to those different devices and platforms where they are, where they're spending time, and making sure we're reaching them there. And then finally, paid search. We know that people who are experiencing bullying are going to be searching about it on Google. And so being able to meet them not only with resources, but also with our message, the campaign, and then the microsite will obviously have more information about the day and week of action as well. And then finally, our last priority objective on the advertising side would be generating leads. And so what we mean by that is when we're sending someone directly to the microsite, and that's awareness, we're able to track that click or that view onto the page. But by generating leads, we're able to kind of encourage people to take the next step where we're capturing some information from them, getting their email, their phone, and then also their first and last name, for example. And so a big portion of this effort would be to really focus on the folks we've already brought in the door through awareness, through follower campaigns, and then do what we call retargeting, which is serve them more content to deepen their engagement. And how we do that is really meet them where they are, right? We already have grown that following on those social platforms. So going right back there where we know we've already converted them and got them to take part in following there. And then similarly, there are in-platform lead generation ads, which means, exactly where that person was being served content, they can complete a form with their information and submit it all in the same place. It doesn't take them to a third-party website or anything like that. So really creating like a really frictionless, seamless experience for people to stay exactly where they want to be. And I think that's it for me, and I'll pass it back to Melvin for stakeholder and partnership strategy.
Thank you, Tori. Before we go into this, I just want to make sure that kind of goes back to what Clara was saying at the top of the content section in terms of we need multiple touch points. If we're only on social media, or if we're only on, in school with posters, we probably won't be able to have the impact that we need. That's why we want to look at all of these different things. And that's also why partnership is very important here, because it can help this campaign in multiple ways. And we have 5 kind of key areas where partnership can really help us. The first one is making sure that, again, we're grounding our strategy in youth leadership. It doesn't mean that we're putting all of the burden of that campaign on the youth, but we want to make sure that this campaign, and we have it on number 4, it goes from the bottom up. Most of the campaign that we've seen in the past, it was coming from school district, and that's also maybe why it doesn't sometimes have the impact that we all wish they had. So youth leadership is very important, making sure that we have the right expertise and thought leadership to build the different resources that we want to have available on the microsite is number 2. Number 3, making sure that, again, all the content we're creating is culturally relevant and that we are really keeping mental health and capacity building and resiliency at the forefront of what we're trying to accomplish. And then 4 and 5, making sure that our campaign is unique and disruptive, and then that we're meeting people where they are so we can extend the reach of the campaign as much as possible. So we're going to go into each quickly. So the first one, we were talking about youth leadership, about cultural relevance, about expertise. This is important because we know that we need this campaign and the content to be authentic. if we are just blanket talking about race-based bullying without going into, I would say that, deeper meaning for each culture, for the AAPI community, for the Hispanic community, for the Black community, I think we'll probably miss the mark. And so to be able to do that, we have a few things that we want to do. The first one is making sure that we are connecting with youth partners. I don't know if we have any members of the YAC present on the call. I know I've seen people from YLI. We've been having bi-weekly meetings with this group, and they've been awesome just for us to be able to generate ideas and get insight from the audience that we're trying to reach. GSAs is another youth group that we can tap into, and then the California Association of Student Council, just to be able to, again, make sure that youth are really ingrained in that campaign. Peer-to-peer support is another one that will be big for us. We have already a partnership with Teen Line. There are other programs similar or partners like that that we could tap into. One thing that we want to make sure of, because we're focused on race-based bullying, is that all of these partners are trained to be able to talk to youth for those specific issues. And then the last two, mental health professional and cultural brokers, those are also extremely important. We have, I'm sure, some cultural brokers on the call today. Having you involved in this campaign is going to be key as well, to make sure, again, that all the content that we build is culturally relevant. Ensuring a campaign is unique, disruptive, and goes from the bottom up. So this is more of a bigger piece of the pie. I think we want to make sure that we're able to cut through the noise, not only around other campaign around bullying, but also all the noise that you see online all the time. And so for that, we want to think big. We want to be ambitious with potentially big brand partnerships in the various industries that we're highlighting here on the right. So gaming, we know, is a big thing for youth. So we would love to be able to partner with Roblox or Minecraft. There are two video games that are very popular within our target audience. We talked about Twitch before. There are a lot of potential partnership with organizational brands that are very inspiring and aligned with our values. Trevor Project is one, and there's a lot of others. Obviously, this list is not exhaustive. And then influencer, artists, celebrities, the list here is big. Again, I will reiterate what Teresa had shared at the very beginning of this presentation in our insight. We need to be very careful how we pick those influencers. It has to be, again, authentic. It cannot be feel forced, because our target audience will get that right away. And then lastly, extending the reach of our campaign and meeting the audience where they are. Again, I believe Clara mentioned that this is something that we can do with partnerships. So we have a lot of things that we can do here. Social media accounts. Dear Asian Youth is one that we wanted to take as an example. There's the link here. If you want to go through the presentation again, this was actually an example that the YAC gave us. There's a lot of cultural brokers, organization representing the AAPI community. We had a great call with the CIRAC, and I think being able to tap into some of their coalition will be great. Organization representing other communities, and also educational organizations. So we talked about the Association of Student Council, but we also want to partner with school district. Again, we don't want to start with them, but we do want to bring them into the fold as we go to the term. And then lastly, media partners is something that we'll be able to look into as well. Lastly, to kind of close out this presentation, we wanted to also take you through how we will measure all of the things that we talked about today. And so when we're talking about measurement, we're really looking at it from two sides. The first one is quantitative measurement, and the other one is qualitative measurement. So on the quantity side of things, we're asking ourselves 3 questions. How many people do we reach? How many times we'll engage these people? Oops, sorry. And how many of those did we inspire to really become agents of change in their own communities? Obviously, when we're talking about how many people we reach, we're really talking about within our target audience. And then on the flip side, it's great to reach people, it's great to get those numbers, but we want to make sure that we're having an impact. So looking at the sentiment. So what are people saying about our campaign? And there's a lot of ways we could do that online. And then lastly, are we making a dent into the anti-bullying sentiment, and how are we shifting the narrative like we've stated? This is more of a, I would say, long-term measurement that we'll do. We won't be able to know right away when we launch, for example, but this is something that we will do more towards the end of our campaign. So we will look at all these questions through three big stages: the awareness phase, the engagement phase, and the activation phase. I'm not going to go too much into details in all of these, because all of the measure that you see here are just really marketing term to measure what was on that first slide. So reach impression is really, again, how many people are we reaching? How many people are seeing our ads? When we go into engagement, it's more the next step. So if you're seeing content for us, or if you're seeing an ad, do you click on it? And then once you clicked on it, do you actually take an action? Are you participating in the day or week of action? Are you mentioning the campaign online? Are you sharing it with your friends in your network? So all of that we will use to kind of, again, measure how much people know about the campaign, how do they engage with it, and how much action do they take. All right, I think this is it. We have next steps here, which I think we can go through next, because it's more what we'll do in the next few months. But Commissioner Chen, I'm thinking that maybe what we can do is pause here and then open the floor for comments, question, reaction from what we shared.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. I am hearing you a little bit staticky, Melvin, but I caught everything in the presentation. Amazing job to the entire team for putting this together. Thank you all so much for taking the time to present. I will pass it over to Cody to open up for public comments. And of course, any questions and feedback as well. I know we have about 30 minutes left, so we have enough time to take any comments and questions. So over to Cody.
All right, please raise your hand if you would like to make public comment. As of now, I'm not seeing any raised hands. And yeah, assuming everyone can hear me okay, I don't see any raised hands, so I assume that means no public comment. So back to you, Chair.
All right.
Everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Oh, okay, perfect. I think we're back. So Cody, thank you for that. It looks like we have no other public comments at this particular stage. I wanted to check with Melvin and the rest of the Media Cause team. Was there any specific pieces in addition to kind of feedback from the presentation altogether? I know that's available online where folks can go through and make any comments about that afterwards. But was there any specific areas where you're hoping to get public comments on?
Yes, I mean, I think we're at this point, we're open to really, as we focus on, the concept activation and how we're bringing this to life. I think this is where feedback would be the most helpful at this point. I'm gonna just move to the next slide just so people can see kind of like what we'll do next. So as we are putting this together, we're also currently working on a big piece of it, which is how are we going to name this campaign? So we will hopefully get that soon, and then once we have that name, we'll be able to also go into more of the visual aspects of the campaign and how this will look. And then you've heard us talk about the day of week of action and other activations, so we're going to continue going deeper and more detailed into these. And same with all of the content and the resources that we need. So we know we need the microsite, so we'll go into design and then production once we go into the new year. The social channel creation, this is something that we will be able to do pretty quickly. And then going into, as Tori was saying, we'll be able to build those channels and try to get really an audience there even before we do the proper launch. And then again, Tori was talking about paid media. We kind of highlighted what we want to look at. And so the next step for us is really diving deeper, starting to have conversation with some of the vendors. I'll spare you all the details in terms of how we can do out-of-home advertising and all of that, but there will need to be some conversation. On some platform, it's just a lot more straightforward. So we'll kind of finalize this plan. And then finally, you've heard us say partnership is going to be a big piece. And this is something where we want to start the outreach to some of the brands, orgs, experts, cultural brokers that we've already identified. And this is something that we had started to do earlier in the process, but realized that we need to be further along so that we could really make an ask of all of these different partners before meeting with them. So this going to go into idea in the next couple months with the goal of finalizing these key partnership in advance of the hard launch. So this is kind of just a very high level overview of what we'll do next. But again, feedback on activation and how we're taking how we're bringing this into life and into market soon will be the best feedback for us at this point. And Commissioner Chen, I don't know if you're speaking. If you are muted. The last thing I'll add is that for the committee members that were not able to attend and that are hopefully watching this recording again, would be happy to take question via email or meet one-on-one to answer anything.
Yeah, thanks so much for that offer. So I wanted to raise a quick point and then, of course, open it up to the rest of the group if anyone else wants to jump in and comment as well. I know we looked at a couple of the different social media platforms that we'll be targeting. Would love to hear a little bit more about kind of the nuances between the different channels and how we might be approaching each of those differently, but at the same time also integrating the content across, because short form content doesn't necessarily transfer or translate perfectly into long form content or longer form content on YouTube. And it's certainly different than when we adapt it to a gaming context. And then when we go into visuals or more images on Instagram, it's again slightly different. So love to hear a little bit more about the integrations between these different social media channels. Are we using, for example, consistent hashtags, or are we using a consistent just a brand voice? Would be great to learn more about that.
This is a great question, Commissioner. So I'm gonna start with the last two kind of piece of your question in terms of hashtag and brand voice. Absolutely, I think as I was talking about the campaign name, as we have that decided, there will be a hashtag that will be attached to the campaign. There will also be messaging streams and messaging framework to be able to have that consistency throughout not only our social platforms, but the websites. How do we also communicate with our partners to make sure that when our partners are sharing the campaign to their network, they're using language that we have vetted. So this is more on the I would say language brand piece. And I'm going to stop there and see if Teresa or Clara, if you have anything to add on that point.
No,
Oh, sorry, Teresa. I was just going to say, yeah, I think the other component that's a big part of creating continuity and a strong singular narrative is the website as well, making sure that we have a sort of central source where anybody who's learning about the campaign can come and understand like who we are, what we're about, what we're doing, and then going back out into those different channels, if that makes sense. So I think that plays a big role, but I also think, yeah, all the things that Melvin said really will help make sure we're telling a cohesive story in formats that work across different channels, but that really all lead back to the hub.
Teresa, do you want to add anything to this?
no, I was just saying I think you covered it. I'm good. Thank you.
Awesome. And then to go back to the first part of your question, Commissioner Chen, on how are we how are these different channels going to be integrated? I think, again, I'm going to go back to the, multiple touch points. And we know that our different audiences resonate with different type of content. And so that's why we kind of have a wide array of different type of content. I think there will be a connected narrative throughout the type of content we're looking for. But to your point, for example, on TikTok, it could be something, or Instagram, that could be something that is just 30-second, a very short snippet of maybe an example of, an example of a story that happened to you. Versus on YouTube, it could be something that we would go a lot more in depth into, and like getting more to the, to the core issues, and how do we go about it? How do we, as a society, do better with this? Same with the website. I think we could take some of those stories and then use this for resources that would be a lot more long form content. I go here too. We had a great conversation yesterday with the YAC, which I've been referring to the YAC, which is the Youth Advisory Committee, to the to this project. We had a great question from Asha, which I believe is a committee member as well, where we want to make sure that there is an understanding and there is resources that are specifically designed to specific community. Race-based bullying and bullying in general might not be talked about the same way in all communities. So we want to make sure that we tap into our cultural brokers to be able to really use that to our advantage, so that when people consume the content, they really get what they need from it.
Perfect. And one more quick follow-up question, and then I'll pause just to make sure that we have space and room for folks to pitch in where they'd like. The quick follow-up question I have is, of course, these are integrated social channels for our key target audience in mind. In the past, when we were brainstorming also, and even in the course of this session, we also discussed other stakeholders, for example, parents, teachers, and thinking about where these messages are going to permeate. And I wonder if we have thought about differentiated social channels as well, for a coordinated social media approach, to also share messages with other stakeholders as well, including teachers.
Do you mean having, for example, let's take Instagram as an example, having one Instagram profile that is more geared towards youth and then one that is more geared towards educators and parents?
Yes, and I would imagine that parents and teachers are using slightly different platforms. Now, actually more so than ever before, I'm also seeing a lot of significantly younger users on platforms like LinkedIn, where they previously weren't active. So in the past, we've always, or at least I personally had always thought of LinkedIn as a very professional development platform. But now I see a lot of high schoolers actually being quite active in terms of posting content and engaging. So it makes me wonder if in different spheres, whether it's a more professional environment like LinkedIn or other environments where teachers and parents engage, if we want to be targeting certain messages through those channels as well.
Got it. I don't think we would have multiple profile on the same platform. I think we could differentiate, to your point, the content or the tone of voice would be a little bit different if we're talking to a tween or if we're talking to parents. But I do think that this is where we can kind of use those different channels, where TikTok, for example, would be more geared towards a younger audience versus Instagram would be geared towards a younger that's slightly older. So we wouldn't do the same type of content there. And then I think what we want to do, and I totally hear you on LinkedIn and other platforms, I think what we want to avoid, though, is maybe starting too broad. I think we'd probably start with with a few channels, see how they perform, but with saying that, it doesn't mean that we're closing the doors on other platforms.
That's a great idea.
We had talked about too Be Real, which is a newer social platforms. So we do have a lot of other, I would say, options that we could activate if we so chose. But I will. I see that Clara has her hand raised. Oh, you're on mute, Clara.
My bad. Here we're talking about digital channels and I'm on mute. Yeah, I wanted to add to what Melvin was saying, that I think partnerships will be a big part of reaching those audiences. So like, you know, like Melvin said, I mean, we want to start in a way that we can be sure, right? Like we're representing ourselves well on the platforms we really want to invest in. But then also, we know that there are a lot of communicators out there on different platforms where who already follow, like say, there's a lot of education handles that teachers follow around different topics. There's a lot of different communities that exist like that already on things like Facebook or LinkedIn, like you're saying, for parents and for teachers. So I think that will be an important thing to keep in mind as we're looking for who do we partner with to help get this message out, who already has a platform, who would be willing to share some of this with their audiences. And I think that will be a really powerful way we can get in front of those secondary audiences fairly quickly.
Is there any other questions or reaction to that point Commissioner Chen brought up? Oh, yes, Stacy, you're back.
I got back just as you were finishing, sorry. I just wanted to know if if the meeting recording would be available on the website, or I know you plan to send it to the committee members, but I'm not on the committee, so I wouldn't be able to see that. And I just wondered if some of the committee meetings are posted on the website, others aren't, so I just didn't know.
I think we can arrange for that, Stacy. This is Cody.
Thank you, Cody.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure we give everyone one last opportunity to pitch in with any comments that might come up. In the meantime, Media Cause team.
I think we lost you, Commissioner.
Oh, I think she's back.
Oh, can everyone hear me? Sorry, my internet is cutting in and out today. I'm not sure where I cut off, so I guess I'll just repeat myself very quickly. I was just saying that I know there's a lot of information for everyone. So if folks want some more time to digest and come back with comments, Media Cause team, what is the best way for folks to be able to reach out to you?
Yes, the best way will be via email. You can email us at either myself, Melvin, MELVIN @mediacause.org. I was going to say we can put it in the chat, but I don't think there's a chat feature. So either my email address or Stephanie, our project manager, which would be, I believe, is it skong@mediacause.org, Stephanie?
It's SKONG @mediacause.org.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Melvin, Stephanie, and the entire Media Cause team. Seeing no other comments, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone for staying the whole time, despite all the technical challenges that we've had. Really, really appreciate everyone's engagement here. And of course, really excited to continue supporting the project, especially with Toby's earlier announcement. So hopefully going forward, we'll get further feedback and also just more support from the state level as well. So if anyone has any comments, again, you can email either Melvin or Stephanie. Stephanie's email is SKONG. Melvin is Melvin @mediacause.org. Perfect. Thank you so much again. Would love to thank you and wish you all a great rest of your evening. This meeting is formally adjourned and we look forward to the next one and seeing you all soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.